Hello everybody, welcome to the Pink and Main Foiling Fun Hop, where today we are showing off our new Cheerfoils and Pink Minc Machine. I'm going to be creating a fun foiled card using the new Happy stamp set and of course the coordinating dies as well, so stick around for some fun foiling and coloring crafting. I'm starting off by stamping this little honeybee bear included in the Happy stamp set, and I'm stamping them down a couple times just to make sure all those solid areas are nice and impressed. I'm using my craft cleaning solution by Pink and Main to help clean off my stamp. I've also off camera stamped a couple of the little bee images as well to color up. Now, as I'm getting my coloring ready, please enjoy some nice background music while I get this little bear and his bees all colored up. Now I'm going to go ahead and use the Happy coordinating dies to cut out my little honey bear along with the 4 little bees as well. My apologies in a moment, you're about to see my hair peek in from the bottom of the video, and there we go. And I'm also using some mint tape to go ahead and secure down my die cuts so we can be all ready to go for some die cutting. I've got my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine ready to go with a magic mat in place just to help cut down on the wear and tear for my cutting plates. And we're going to go ahead and pass this through twice just so we can get all of the images cut out. Now let's get to that foiling fun. I've got the Beautiful foilable kit, and I'm going to be using this honeycomb pattern and this bee pattern that's included in this foilable kit for my project. I love that they give you a half sheet of paper size of these foilable designs that you're going to be able to use to make your projects. They're perfect if you cut them in half. You'll be able to use them for an A2 sized card, which is how I like to use them, and that's exactly how I'm going to be cutting them. So just cut them right in half and you've got 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm doing that on the bee design and then moving on to that honeycomb design. Now, of course, the panels that I won't be using, I can put right back into that pouch and save them to use for another card. So now that we've got our cutting all ready to go, we are just going to go ahead and show you that I've got both of the designs all cut down to A2 size, and now it's time to get into that fun foiling. Now I'm starting with the honeycomb design, and I always like to wipe off my panel with a microfiber cloth. That's going to help remove any sort of oil residue and dust from the panel. I'm also taking some gold fairy wings Cheerfoil, and I am using my microfiber cloth on the back of the foil as well. And by the back, I mean that dull side. Now I'm going in with a ruler and I'm going to go ahead and trim just a little bit off that top edge with a rotary trimmer. I found that rotary trimmers work really nicely for cutting your foil exactly. And then I'm going to use a brush just to make sure I've got all of my little dust elements ready to go. Once everything is all lined up, I've got my carrier pouch ready to go for my Minc machine. And my Minc is preheated already to the number 3 setting, which is going to be perfect for these toner sheet designs. Now I did speed this video up about 2 times the speed, so it's going to take a little slower in real time for you to get this all foiled, but don't worry, you're going to get a gorgeous result regardless. So I'm setting that aside to cool, and I'm going to move on to my honeybee design. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that same process using that gold fairy wings foil. I'm going to use my microfiber cloth on the toner card front, and then I'm also going to go ahead and use it on the back of that cheer foil of that gold fairy wings color. So I'm lining everything up, and once I have it so that my toner design is perfectly inside of that gold, I'm using my rotary trimmer to cut that foil so we can go ahead and work on getting it into our pouch. Now I do have my Minc all ready to go. It's preheated to the number 3. I love that it doesn't take very long to preheat at all. It makes it really quick to get into the crafting when you're using the different foilable designs. So once it's all finished, I'm going to set it aside to cool, and now it's time for those peel reveals. Oh, look at the gorgeous iridescent gold with that honeycomb and a beautiful negative to use for a future project. Now we're going to go in and we're going to check out that bee design, remove the foil for another peel reveal, and I am just loving these iridescent gold fairy wings little bumblebees, and I've got another negative that I'm going to be able to use for a future card. These are absolutely gorgeous, and I'm so excited to be using these for today's card. I'm bringing in a piece of black cardstock that I'm going to use with the stitched arch dies, and I'm going to make some frames and some panels for my card. So I'm going to take the second largest die, put it onto my black cardstock, and then I'm going to use the third largest die and start putting it into position on my honeybee panel as well. I'm just trying to position that die to make sure I get those bees exactly where I want them to go. As you can see, I'm kind of moving it around, trying to figure out where I want them, and I end up settling on a little bit of an offset design that I know is just going to work perfectly for my card. Just like before, I'm going to go ahead and secure it with a little bit of mint tape, and this is really going to help secure those dies so they don't shift at all as I am die cutting them out. Now I'm pulling up my die cutting machine once again, and we're going to go ahead and die cut each of these panels out, first with the little bumblebee foiled panel, and next just with the black cardstock. Now I thought it would be really fun to go ahead and splatter some asphalt premium dye ink onto this panel. So I'm going to go ahead, press it onto my glass mat, water it down, and flick it with a watercolor brush right onto those foiled bumblebees. Now I'm going to pull up my Happy stamp set and use the sentiment, "You're as sweet as can be," and I'm going to work on heat embossing it onto my black stitched arch die cut. I'm going to use my magic anti-static brush to make sure that we're ready to go for some heat embossing. I'm going to stamp with my watermark embossing ink pad a couple times just to make sure that we are all ready to go with some nice ink coverage. And then once that is all ready, I'm going to prepare my panel for some frosting embossing powder. So I'm going to go ahead and reach for that. I like to go ahead and just lightly put some on top of my panel with a piece of just copy paper underneath, and that helps catch any of that excess embossing powder that I can save for later. So I'm going to go ahead and set it with my heat gun, and it is just going to pop so perfectly on that black cardstock. I always like to wipe it off with my microfiber towel just to make sure that all that dust is good to go. And I'm going to use one of those extra large sentiment banners to go ahead and cut out that sentiment. I'm securing my die cut down with some mint tape, and we're going to go ahead and process this through my die cutting machine once again. Now I also decided to go ahead and use the largest die from the stitched rectangle die set number 2, and I'm going to go ahead and die cut from my gold fairy wings Cheerfoiled honeycombs. Using that same panel, I'm going to use my Easy Craft Glue to go ahead and adhere my honeycomb panel right to an A2 card base. Don't you just love that iridescence from the gold fairy wings Cheerfoil? Oh, I think it's beautiful. So we're gonna go ahead and get that all ready to go, and then we're gonna go ahead and grab that black arch die cut that's got a little chunk missing from the middle, but don't worry, we're gonna cover it up and stretch our stash. So once I have that all centered and ready to go, I'm gonna grab my splattered gold honeybee panel, and we're gonna put some glue on top, layer it right on top of that black arch, and look, it covers up that die cut sentiment banner that's missing just perfectly. I'm working on getting my little bear and sentiment all into place. I like to adhere the bottom of the bear's feet directly on top of the sentiment banner and make them one unit. So what I'm going to do, once I have that all into place, I want to make sure it's nice and secured. It's now going to be time to make sure that we can adhere some foam tape onto the back of it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my foam tape and adhere little bits and bobs to make sure everything is nice and secured. I like to make sure that I'm using a solid piece for any portion of the bear that's going to overlap onto the sentiment strip. I like to think that this is going to give a little bit of extra reinforcement just to make sure my bear and the sentiment strip won't separate at all once I get the card all ready to go. Of course, it's time to remove the back from my foam tape, and then we're going to be able to get our little honeybee bear adhered right onto our card. So I've got it right into place, trying to get it as centered into that arch as I possibly can. And once we're ready to go, I just want to make sure that everything is nice and lined up. I begin to press everything down. We're getting there, but we're not quite done yet. So I'm going to go ahead using my Easy Craft Glue. I'm going to just put a couple little dots, and then we're going to pull from those little bees that we colored up earlier, and I'm going to put them into place just so they're sort of surrounding our little guy. Once I have all of my honeybees into place, I'm just kind of using my tool to push and prod them around. I'm going to pull in some white glitter enamel dots, and I'm going to put them on top of my card. I end up going with a total of 9 dots, which might seem a little much, but I thought that this card could use even a little extra glitz and glittery, even though we have so much Cheerfoil going on. So I'm getting everything nice and pressed down, and then we're going to go ahead and move towards finishing out our card. And there we have it. We've got our card all ready to go, and let me just tell you how much I am loving that gold fairy wings Cheerfoil and how it picks up all of those little honeybees and the honeycomb. Thank you so very much for stopping by for the Pink and Main Foiling Fun Hop. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and leave a comment below so you can be entered in our Minc Machine prize pack giveaway. So thanks once again for stopping by. Have fun foiling, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.